Hi, everybody. This is Mark Lane from Classic Hits 92.5 KVPI. On the line with us, we have Mark Bego, the author of Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul Tribute Edition. Mark, welcome back to Classic Hits 92.5. You are the man responsible for writing the definitive bio on the life and music of Aretha, who we lost very recently. And I got to ask you, Mark, your new tribute edition has a lot of new information in it, doesn't it?
It does. I had just a few days to put together a new beginning, a new ending, update the discography, update several items of it, find some new photos, recent photos from last year of her from her last concert performances, and to bring it right up to date, right up to the minute.
Mark, I understand that she was a really private person, but you're one of the few people that had the opportunity of doing a one-on-one interview with her back in the 80s for your first edition of the book, right?
Absolutely. This is where really the genesis of this book started. I had a couple of big successes already with books about musicians.
Right.
So when I got this call from Aretha's publicist to have this opportunity to go to her house in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and sit on her sofa in her living room and have 3 hours one-to-one with her, it was an opportunity I just jumped at. I mean, there I was in Aretha's living room looking at all her gold records on the wall, her Grammy Awards on her grand piano in the living room, and be given a tour of her house and her garden by Aretha. It was just an amazing opportunity. So I said to her when we were taking a break in these recording sessions, would you be interested in doing a book with me? And she said, absolutely not. No. I was like, what? I was crushed. So I knew right then and there that I needed to do a book, because a book hadn't been done about her at that point of any sort, that I wanted to do the ultimate version of Aretha Franklin's life. So I started to delve into it, made a book deal with St. Martin's Press back then. The new version's on Skyhorse Publishing. And I interviewed Jerry Wexler, who produced all those incredible hits for her Atlantic Records. I found Clyde Otis, who produced her at Columbia Records when they were trying to mold her into being a jazz singer. And I was able to talk to Clive Davis, who revived her career in the 80s and 90s and kept it going with all those wonderful hits like Freeway of Love and those duets that she did with Elton John and George Michael. And I was just fascinated and honored to be writing the story of this amazing woman whose life wasn't always happy, wasn't always hit-making. She's someone who felt that she was dominated by a lot of the men in her life. And by the time she got to Atlantic Records, Jerry Wexler said to me, he said, Aretha had a right to sing the blues. So when I sat her down at the piano and told her to sing to her piano playing, he said her soul just opened up.
Wow. I got to ask you this, Mark, based on your research and interviewing all these music people, her record people, what was Aretha's favorite music? Was it the soul R&B or was her first love gospel?
She, of course, grew up with gospel surrounding her. Her dad had that famous church in downtown Detroit, New Bethel Baptist Church. So she grew up singing in the choir, which a lot of popular singers name that as the beginnings of their career. But she had an interest in all sorts of music. She grew up in a household where jazz greats like Billie Holiday and Dinah Washington would come to the house. She would be taught cooking and kitchen chores by the great gospel singer Mahalia Jackson, who would come to the house to visit Aretha's famous father. And the biggest influence from that era was Sam Cooke, the great crooner who did that hit "You Send Me" and all those wonderful early '60s hits. She saw in Sam Cooke what was capable of going from gospel to modern music, and that was what she wanted to do. But if you look at her career, she had the ability to take any song that she wanted and really make it her own. I mean, look what she did with Dionne Warwick's "Say a Little Prayer for You."
Yes.
Started a huge fight with Dionne that went on to the very end. Aretha had the ability to take other people's hits and make them an Aretha hit. And this was infuriating to the original singers of these songs often. Or like in the case of Paul Simon with Bridge Over Troubled Waters, he was like, oh my God, it's Aretha's song now.
Out of all the research you've done, Mark, do you have a personal Aretha Franklin favorite?
Of the songs from her early era, I absolutely love The House That Jack Built.
Oh, yeah.
It's a top 10 hit that often gets lost. You know, we hear a lot of Respect and Think and what have you, but there's some amazing recordings like The House That Jack Built from the early 60s that I absolutely adore. And from the 80s, I love Jump to It. That song, Jump to It, where she's gossiping on the phone in the middle of the song to one of her girlfriends. I mean, that was the real Aretha Franklin.
What's the main takeaway you want to get your readers to get to learn, to know about Aretha Franklin from your book?
I want them to know that there was a really incredible, passionate person behind all this music. It wasn't just roles that she played. She brought her soul, her personality, and that incredible voice and integrity to everything she did.
Now, of course, you talk about the music, which is really important. That's what made Aretha so special, Mark. But you also talk about all of her personal tragedies, the teenage pregnancies, the abusive marriage, the drinking problems, the battles with her weight, the death of her father, the tabloid wars, even the family squabble over her estate. She was basically had a lot of problems, didn't she?
She really did. You know, you want to say that she kind of had a right to sing the blues. She certainly had a lot of problems in her life that she had to overcome. She was very private about this. She never really gave details about what went on with the teenage pregnancies, who the father was, what the situation was. So when I was originally the first person to really write about this, I went, wait a minute, she's how old? And her sons are how old? Wait a minute. She's only years older. So this is something that she was faced with as a young teenager, having to drop out of school because she had 2 babies at home. But then having the ability to leave her children with a housekeeper in Detroit at her dad's house and go at the age of 18 to New York to pursue her dreams of a recording career, she was someone with incredible determination. And then she married, as you mentioned, Ted White, her first husband, basically to get out of her father's house and have a life of her own. And then he turned out to be mentally and reportedly physically abusive towards her. So she really was someone kind of held down. So when she got to Atlantic Records and started doing that incredible chain of hits, chain,
oh yeah,
other things, she really had a lifetime of experience in sadness and in happiness to draw upon.
Out of the 50-plus books that you've written on music and entertainment, how do you rate this book?
This is one of my absolute top 5 of my entire career, and there's been 63, as you mentioned, so I've had a lot of people to write about. This one, Madonna, Blonde Ambition, I really loved. My Elton John book, The Bitch Is Back, I really loved doing. The Billy Joel book that I did. And, of course, the Michael Jackson book that was my huge New York Times bestseller was really a gratifying book to do as well.
Mark Bego, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Best of luck on the new edition, the author of Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul Tribute Edition. It's good talking with you, Mark, and I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. A pleasure to be with you.
Okay, bye-bye.